Brought to you by...
If you're enjoying the content here, please consider supporting us on Patreon or Tippy.
The only thing that can get a bit trying up here during the winter is a tremendous sense of isolation.
Play with us.
Friends, darlings, lights of my life, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna bash your brains in. Today, I want to take you on a journey through the winding maze of corridors that make up the hallowed halls of a place whose past lies beneath a shroud of pain and darkness. A past that perpetuates an endless cycle of violence and plunges a family into a living nightmare. We lock ourselves behind the doors of the Overlook Hotel and settle in for a long winter to delve into possibly the most revered of Stephen King's adaptations, in the psychologically unhinged depiction of insanity and the unknown from visionary filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. This is The Shining. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, or rather a homicidal boy, in Stanley Kubrick's eerie 1980 adaptation of Stephen King's horrific novel. With his wife Wendy and psychic son Danny in tow, frustrated writer Jack Torrance takes a job as the winter caretaker at the ominous mountain-locked Overlook Hotel, hoping to find the solitude he's been looking for that will allow him the chance to write in peace. Before the Overlook is vacated, the manager informs Jack that a previous caretaker went crazy and slaughtered his entire family. Jack doesn't seem to think this is a problem, but Danny's abilities hint otherwise. Settling into their routine, Danny cruises through the empty corridors on his big wheel and plays in the topiary maze with his mother, while Jack sets up shop in a cavernous lounge with strict orders not to be disturbed. However, Danny's alter ego, Tony, begins warning him as he is plagued by blood-soaked visions of the past, while Jack, struggling with writer's block, starts to unravel at the seams. Frightened by her husband's behavior and Danny's visit to the foreboding Room 237, Wendy soon discovers what Jack has really been doing in his study all day, and the influence that the hotel has been having on him. Friends, let me start off by telling you that this is one of my top 5 favorite films of all time. The Shining is a movie that I have watched literally hundreds of times over the course of my life. It's one of the few films that exist out there that, so far, I can't seem to get sick of. No matter how long it's been, no matter how many times I may have watched it in recent memory, this is a film that I am always willing to take another look at, and one that I seem to always find new meaning in. And yet, this is another one of those movies, much like Halloween, that has been talked to death. There is quite literally nothing I could tell you about this film that hasn't already been said. There exist many interpretations of this material that many others like myself have spent countless hours speculating over. There's even an entire documentary called Room 237 that explores a handful of these interpretations. Not to mention the channel Collative Learning, who features an entire series of videos dedicated to breaking down and deeply analyzing the film in great detail. The only thing that I can do is to try and express to you my personal feelings regarding it. For me, This is one of the most beautifully constructed films that exists in cinema today. It's a film whose cinematography takes you on a journey through the elaborately constructed halls of the hotel, both exploring its intricacies and creating its atmosphere. With every moment that we linger in this place, we get the sense that this cathedral houses secrets in which we are not prepared to know. There's an overwhelming sense that something beyond our understanding lies waiting, lurking around every corner. A palpable aroma of constant dread that threatens young Danny and his mother Wendy at every turn, though they may not be aware of it. Each step of this film is crafted to build tension slowly and methodically, utilizing its camera work to perfectly implant its audience into each and every moment, forcing us to live out the experience with the characters. Long Steadicam shots follow our characters as they traverse the halls, never knowing what awaits them around the next corner, and slow zooms push us into their minds as they teeter on the verge of fracture. Every shot and every edit feels deliberately placed to cause us the most unease and to keep us from becoming comfortable in the moment. This is not something that we get to see often today. Much of cinema now is played safe, sticking to very strict rules and guidelines to much better immerse the audience. Kubrick didn't follow these guidelines. There are many instances where he would break the 180-degree rule, which effectively unsettles you, jumping you from one side of an actor to another and jarring your senses for the briefest moments. He keeps you on your toes. He even went so far as to design the sets to be contradictory to themselves, placing windows where they could not possibly exist, doors that technically lead to nowhere, and hallways that extend beyond their architectural boundaries, creating a labyrinth within the hotel that could only work within our characters' minds. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I find him to be one of the most prolific writers to have ever existed. His ability to manipulate the written word is nothing short of masterful. That being said, and many Stephen King fans will disagree with me on this, I'm one of the few out there who actually prefers Kubrick's interpretation to the original novel. Now, before you all smash that dislike button, unsubscribe, and click off this video, allow me a moment to explain. In King's original novel, he depicts the events that take place in the Overlook to be largely supernatural in nature. Danny and Jack's psychic links, as well as the specters that haunt the family throughout, create more classic haunting-style elements that do blend well with the internal struggle that each of the characters face. Kubrick, on the other hand, took a more psychological approach to the scenario. He chose to focus on the perpetuation of violence, both in the hotel and within the Torrance family. He chose to keep the element of the Shining ability, but to extend more energy and time on each of the film's characters and their isolation in this winter tundra, essentially chalking up much of what we would perceive as supernatural as cracks in the family's collective psyche. In essence, it could all be in their minds. While I enjoy the elements of the supernatural, that idea is far more intriguing to me. Kubrick's aim was to immerse you in true horrors. Jack's battles with alcoholism, his violent tendencies as a result, his struggles with failure, Wendy's fragile nature and lack of assertiveness, her fear of Jack's violence, her fear that she can't protect her own son from him. You can even see it in Danny, the way he is more timid around Jack, as he fears a repeat of his injury that we are only briefly told about. He's a child of abuse, living beneath the threat of an alcoholic father who lashes out in rage, and a mother too weak to defend them. Not to mention the horrors that have taken place in the hotel throughout the years. These things, I feel, are far more terrifying threats than any ghosts ever could be. Though I won't completely discount the presence of something more within the film, but I feel that rather than treating it as a haunting, Kubrick gives us more of a force, an energy that envelops the Overlook. Something akin to the Force in Evil Dead in a way. It's like a dark cloud that settled on this place, stained it. People who have the ability to shine, whether they know it or not, are affected by it, and in a way, they become trapped here. He leaves a lot to be interpreted, which I feel makes the film that much better. One of the strongest aspects of King's writing has always been in his ability to create such strong and memorable characters, which I feel gave Kubrick the perfect jumping off point for this film, and I honestly believe may have been the reason that he decided to adapt this story. I feel like Kubrick saw a deeper story in the source material, a story of a broken family, a story of violence and struggle. Jack Nicholson depicts Jack as a man who is broken from the start, possibly from the moment he first caused harm to Danny. He's easily recognizable as a man who is unhappy in his own life. This is clear just on his facial response when Wendy tells him that writing is as easy as getting back into the habit of doing it every day. I view him kind of as a ticking time bomb that you are just waiting to explode. Wendy is a whole nother story. To me, she's a woman who is emotionally and mentally damaged, likely as a result of her abusive relationship with Jack. She's meek in nature and very clearly is afraid to step out of line in Jack's presence. We're never explicitly told that he has been violent to her in the past, but we do get a sense that this may be the case. Shelley Duvall delivers a highly strung out performance throughout this film, and with each scene slowly breaks down further to a point of frantic hysteria, which was famously perpetrated by Kubrick's overly harsh treatment of her on set. Not something I condone, but you do have to admit that it brought out the strongest performance of her career. Finally, young Danny, portrayed by Daniel Lloyd, not only delivers one of the most memorably creepy child performances, but his highly reserved demeanor conveys to me the fear of a child who has grown up under the thumb of a controlling and abusive father, living in fear alongside his just as terrified mother. For me, this film is a masterclass in building tension. It creates a perfect marriage between a flowing, ominous camera style that places you almost as another character, a fly on the wall of the situation that is unfolding, and a haunting, ominous musical composition that sinks you into the horrors of the psyche. I can count on one hand the number of films in which every scene is made up of iconic moments. Kubrick somehow managed to craft what, in my eyes, is a perfect film. Many out there may not agree with that statement, but there's nothing wrong with that. Most people prefer the book to the movie. It's just that, for me, there aren't many films like this. Even though I have seen this film so many times throughout my life, it still manages to fill me with more dread and unease than anything I have seen before. Somehow, this film's techniques create a perfect blend of elements that cause a reaction in me that I can't quantify, and it's something I wouldn't trade for the world. If you haven't guessed by now, I'm giving The Shining an A+. I doubt that there are many of you out there who have not seen this film at some point, but for those who have not, I implore you to please give it a chance. Grab a copy, sit back, and let this film immerse you deep into its atmosphere. For all of you who have, as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this one down in the comments below. Does this film impact you the way it does to me? Do you subscribe to the whole moon landing theory, or the theory of genocide against the Native American people? This is a film that has been discussed and debated since the moment it was unleashed on the public. Why stop now? If you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to let me know. It's just a quick scroll down there to that comment section below. If you're enjoying the channel more than words can describe, shoot me a thumbs up and feel free to subscribe. If you'd like to show your support even more, come find ETF on Patreon or Tippy, where every pledge and every tip brings you rewards galore. Not to mention allowing me to bring you more films to explore. But all jokes and rhymes aside, if you have any films that you would like me to check out, or that you might like to see reviewed on this channel, feel free to reach out to me here down in the comments, or over on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And I will catch you all next time. Thanks for watching.